Let's talk about some things you should be doing right now. It's October. We have cold weather and freezing nights coming. We have beautiful sunny days and freezing nights. So what do you need to be doing? First of all, detach those rain barrels. And you can hold off a little bit longer, but I can't guarantee how long it'll be till freeze up happens. So you want to detach those rain barrels. Okay, that was the overflow pipe. It was on the overflow of the rain barrel. Now it's coupled to the downspout and is feeding our side yard. I took the jet stream of my my sprayer and set that up, and I washed out the rain barrel. So got off mineralization, a whole bunch of pollen, crud at the bottom. So wash that out. We'll be flipping it over so nothing builds up in it over winter. So rain barrels. Let's talk about compost. Now's a great time to feed it. My composters are actually going to be moving to another spot, but you want to feed these compost with brown material. So anything that's dried up, any sticks, stems, leaves that have fallen that are dried, grass clippings that you've dried, that's what's your brown material. So your carbon, basically. You want to get those into there. Your green material. I have a ton of green material because I left a bunch of my plants going up until the frost killed them off. So if the plants are healthy, they don't have any bugs, any blights, these will get chopped up and put into the composter. So I'm going to feed the composter. I'm going to give it some water. I'm going to dump a bit of soil in there too to bring in some microbes. But got my green material, my nitrogen, my brown material, my carbons, and going to turn the compost, and I'm actually moving that one. My kale and broccoli are doing fine still in this cold weather, so they're okay. Carrots are still fine. I actually even have some turnips that are still going. There's actually a bit of sheltering in here, so this microclimate's fantastic. I've collected up all of my tomatoes, brought them inside. The green ones are ripening in a cool, dark spot, and that's how they ripen. My greenhouse is still kicking, and I actually should have opened this. Right now it is 28 degrees in here. So these tomatoes are still ripening. I still have some peppers in here. So right now it's just tomatoes and peppers. I took out the tomatoes that were against the glass, brought those in. The rest of them are fine. Now I do have a heater in here that runs overnight. It's keeping it at about 11 degrees overnight. And just so they're not freezing by night, but by day, it's still roasting in here. So I went in, I cleaned out all of the red tomatoes, and we're just eating them and loving them, and leaving these ones to ripen until I have more room in my house. I have to bring them in and ripen them there. Oh, there's always so many things to be doing this time of year. Let's talk about your pots. Now, I have pots of annuals. And it's still green. It's so lovely. But you can see the verbena has already started to fade. So you can keep your soil in pots over winter. Water can build up. What I like to do is actually I pick one of my garden beds and I pile them in there. And then in the spring, I loosen out all of the material that didn't break down amongst the soil, pop that material into my composter in the spring, and then I use my garden bed basically as a mixing spot when I refill my pots. There's a few perennials I have yet to plant. Working on this side yard, hired a neighbor teenager to help me move all those sidewalk blocks. Now let's talk about things you planted this year. I'm going to just step over my juniper here. So this tree, along with another one, along with some vines, I planted them just a few weeks ago. So they really haven't expanded their roots. They were very happy after transplanting, but I'm going to be giving them a very good drink. So anything that you're planting this fall, want to give them a good drink. Don't saturate the root ball yet. If you're planning to create that ice block around your plants, you really want to wait until you know it's going to be freezing by day. At least, I mean, you could do it now, but you don't want to activate growth. We just want to establish those roots. If you want to create the ice ball, I'd give it a couple more weeks personally. Evergreens. This spruce did great this year despite the heat wave, but to be expected. This cedar, full sun, it's deeply mulched. It's at the base of a swale, but it was still very hot this year. So there's quite a bit of dieback on the inside, as to be expected. They do that anyways, but this year it was that much more severe. So I'll be giving all of my evergreens, even my pine, which love the drier conditions, but I still had a lot more needle drop this year. So my pines and all my evergreens are going to get a very good drink. All my new plants that I've planted this year are going to get a very good drink. Even my fruit trees that grew gangbusters are going to get a good drink. I typically do not give my plants surplus water. Any established plants, I don't. But this was an particularly hot year for them, so I am. My perennials, the only ones I've cut back this year, my Monarda, or bee balm, had some powdery mildew on it, which is typical. Bee balm easily is very prone to powdery mildew, and so cut those out. I didn't compost them. I put them in the municipal compost, but I didn't put them in my home compost. It just doesn't produce enough heat to kill those spores. But everything else is going to overwinter as is. These seed heads, not only are they beautiful popping out over the snow in the winter, they're also a food source for birds. So seed heads, this is beard tongue, right? Penstemon. And bugs love this. So not bugs, pardon me, birds love this. So this creates some interest even in the winter, these gorgeous seed heads. You know, look at that. Gorgeous, right? But it's also a food source. So those will be left as such. What can you do with your garden beds right now? Well, mine are actually growing some lettuce seeds. And then we also have some oregano that I overwinter in here each year. They do well there. These are actually wind up being Halloween decor. So nothing's going on with these ones. But what can you do for your soil now? I feed my beds this time of year. And how? I put in compost. So the beds shrink over time because they are the soil and the organic matter is being consumed. So it shrinks. It also compacts over time. So, and also because my beds are so rich in organic matter gets broken down and utilized by the plants and the organisms in the soil. So it's to be expected that it's going to shrink at least an inch each year. So I'll be putting on an inch of compost. Sometimes I have access to composted manure or composted mushroom manure. I'll do that instead or mix it in with my own home compost. Top that up. And then as you can see, there's still some wood shavings from my mulching of this summer's bed. I leave those there. I leave that there. It improves the drainage of the soil. It slightly decreases the pH, which the majority of my plants, the majority of our vegetables do like it slightly bit more acidic. So that's fine. So I'll just be putting that compost right on top. So if your beds have shrunk, fill it with organic matter, especially compost. And I say composted manure. If it still smells like poop, don't use it. It's going to burn your roots. And anything else you may have that is borderline hardy in an exposed location. So I have a few zone 4 4B plants in my suburban neighborhood. So I have a smoke bush over there. I'll be taking some of the leaves that drop and put it around. I have this hardy fuchsia. I have a hardy fuchsia. Okay, and look, there's another Monarda. This Monarda, it self-seeds everywhere, but you can actually see that powdery mildew on there. So I'll be ripping this out and putting that in the municipal compost. But this is a hardy fuchsia. This will overwinter. And look, there's a bee. There's a bee right there, guys. They're still my yard, October 9th, and the bees are still loving it here. Oh, but these plants get very well covered by snow. It's right by my driveway, so they will have enough coverage. I'm not really worried about that. But anything that's a borderline hardy plant, make sure it has thick mulch around its root system. And if you don't have a lot of thick mulch, you can even cover the plant itself in a bunch of leaves. So here is my smoke bush that is slowly growing. Oh, I can't wait till she gets big. Look at that smoke bush, that purple. That deep color is its color in the summer too, right? So my rose has changed color, but this is that gorgeous purple. So I'll ensure that there is some leaves from my trees in the backyard. Just pile them around here, create a little extra insulation. But honestly, this daylily has been covering it as it grows as it was growing from a tiny little shrub. And it helps for that snow capture. This is a south location, but we have some shading from the columnar spruce. We got some shrubs around it. So I created some shade for this plant. Now, it's not so much shade as it is sheltering from wind. That is what kills our borderline hardy plants. Our winter sun and our winter winds can be extremely harsh and desiccating. So this is why those borderline hardy plants, those are the ones that you want to ensure get snow cover on them. And unfortunately, we're getting less snow than we used to. Trends found over the last how many decades. We're not getting the same amount of snow in the winter, so we're not getting the same insulation on these plants. So if you have a borderline hardy plant and it's in a spot that the snow is going to melt off quickly, say off of a white facade of a house, it's going to melt off super quick, right? West exposure, south exposure. So you just want to ensure that it's got the snow cover, or you put some. You can even do a like a fence of burlap around your plant. You can put in 4 posts, burlap around, or if you've got tomato cages. If the tomato cage is big enough to fit around your shrub or your plant that you're trying to protect, put that tomato cage around it, put some burlap around that, fill it with some dry, clean leaves. Pruning. There's really not a lot that you have to prune this time of year. This is considered late fall is when you can do some pruning. Typically what I say, if there's something that you feel like you have to prune because it's in the way through the winter, wait until the leaves have dropped. Okay, all that energy has returned to its roots, and you're not first of all, you're not cutting off energy that the plant needs. And secondly, you're not cutting it at a time that the plant could be infected. So any blights that could be airborne still this fall, you cut those plants right now. Those blights, those insects that are still, pest insects that are still active will still come in this time of year. So it's best to wait until our deciduous trees have dropped their needles. Oh, this gargantuan. Look at this beast. This cedar, we bought this house 16 years ago. Cedar is huge. You do not see cedars like this in the Edmonton area. For sure, Brandon, as to be expected, like other cedars, you know, dried out, hollowed out in the middle, but she's gorgeous. A lot of needle drop this year. This heat really stressed this girl up. And the backside really suffered. So, see up there? Woo! I'm gonna have to cut that out. So I'll be cutting this out in the next couple weeks as well. God, I love this tree. From my house, on the inside is a bay window, and it looks into the tree. And all year long, this is bird habitat. Awesome. Okay, well, that was a little quick spin. I have a few other perennials to plant in the next few days. And, yeah. Oh, all the herbs. I have herbs to collect. Lemon balm. I'm making some tinctures for those I love that suffer from cold sores. It's supposed to be great for combating